Good morning. Thanks for good morning. I'm glad you can hear me. Thank you for coming for this morning's session. We're going to look at spelling today. So it's 2 minutes past 9 now, so I think we'll make a start. So our aims and outcomes today. So by the end of this session, you must be aware of different spelling of homophones. So words that sound the same but are spelled differently. Understand how prefixes work. So prefixes are at the start of a word, and then it should say suffixes, which come at the end of a word, and know how to spell words with unstressed vowels, sometimes known as silent letters. So you should not make errors that affect meaning, and you could know how to spell a selection of other common misspelled words. So at level 2, you are expected to have mastered the lower level skills. So you should be using the correct homophones, possessive pronouns, trickier prefixes and suffixes, and words with unstressed vowels, and errors don't affect meaning. So, for example, with homophones, which are words that sound the same but are spelt differently and the meaning is different depending on the spelling, an error could change the meaning of your sentence, or it might not make sense. Okay, so you need to avoid that. And your spelling should be accurate throughout and include ambitious words. So you need to show that you're willing to, or you're willing to have a go at those tricky words and that you are able to spell them correctly. So using those words we've just described in that box on the top left. So that's your level 2 expectation for when you do your test. Okay, so we're going to watch a video first about using prefixes to help you spell. And a prefix is what comes at the start of a word.
4 tips for spelling, root words and prefixes. What do you think of when you hear spelling? Are you fine with spelling? Or do you worry about it? Many people feel less than confident when spelling. This unit will help you to think about beginnings and endings of words to help spelling. A key thing to consider with spelling is that you must be aware of what you need to practice. There are so many little things that can go wrong that no person is ever the same when it comes to spelling. General things to think about. Tip 1. Work out what it is that you can't do. There will be spellings that you are good at. Know what these are and pat yourself on the back about them. Then look at your spellings and see what sorts of things you tend to get wrong. This is where you'll need to focus. Tip 2. Use what you do know to build on what you don't. For example, if you know the rule, knock off the E to add ing, then you can use this when adding other endings. Tip 3. Work on a little bit at a time. Don't try to do too much at once. Tip 4. Practice, practice, practice. The more you practice, the better you will be. It is really useful to know about root words and the bits that are fixed onto them, i.e. prefixes and suffixes. Knowing some basic rules here can quickly and easily improve your spelling. Let's start with root words. Root words are words that stand alone and can have other parts added to them. Look at this example. Able. We can add the dis to the front of able to make disable, or n to make enable. Then we could add d to the end of disable to make disabled, and ing to the end of enable to make enabling. If you know about prefixes and suffixes, it becomes a lot easier to build longer, more sophisticated words. Focus on being able to spell the main word, i.e. the root word first, and then add your endings and beginnings. Look at this word, anti-disestablishmentarianism. Isn't that a scarily long word? But breaking it down into root word, suffixes and prefixes shows you just how easy it is to spell a difficult word like this. Establish is the root word. We then add the suffix ment. then the prefix dis is added, then the prefix anti is added, then the suffix arian, and then finally the suffix ism. Thinking of each of the smaller component parts makes this an easier long word to spell. So, what are these prefixes and suffixes? Prefixes. The proper name for those bits that are fixed at the beginning of the root word is prefixes. Pre means front, so these are the bits that are fixed to the front. Prefix useful tip 1. The prefixes dis or miss will only ever have one S. Disappoint, disfigure, disregard, misread, misunderstand. Note that if the root word begins with an S, then there will of course be two S's, as in disservice and misspell. Prefix useful tip 2. Is it im, in, il, or ir at the front? If you are adding to a word beginning with an L, then add il, as in illegal and illogical. Note how there are two L's in illegal and illogical. This is because you are adding il to legal and logical. If you are adding to a word beginning with P or M, then it's im, as in impossible or immature. See how there are two M's in immature? That's because you are adding in to mature. If you are adding to a word beginning with R, then it's ir, as in irregular, irrational. Notice how there are two R's. That's because you are adding ir to regular and rational. With words beginning with the other letters, use in, such as inactive, ineffective, indecent. Now watch part 2 of this tutorial, where we will look at suffixes.
Does anyone have any questions about prefixes? Okay, we'll look at suffixes in a moment. So, as we've heard there, prefixes are letters fixed in front of a root word that change the meaning of the root word. So, you need to be able to accurately spell root words and then spell the prefix, and then you can spell the whole word. Knowing the meaning of prefixes will help you to understand unfamiliar words as well. So from level 1, you should know that il, im, in, non, and un all mean not. So once you know that, then that's going to help you understand words that have those prefixes. So we've got some, excuse me. So we've got some prefixes here as examples. So auto, which means self, and the example is automatic. So something that drives its or works by itself. So an automatic washing machine, it works by itself. It needs minimal human interaction. So the human literally is just selecting a program, pressing start, and then the machine does it itself. So automatic. Infra, which the prefix means beneath or below, and our example is infrastructure. So the underlying structure of a system or an organisation, infrastructure. So bi means to, such as in the word biathlon, an event an event with two options, so or not options but two parts to it, such as swimming and running, swimming and cycling, so on. Micro, which means extremely small, and the example is microscope. So we know that a microscope is used to look at extremely small, minute cells and so on. Circum, which means around, and the example is circumscribe, and the literal meaning of that would be to draw a line around something, but what it actually means is to limit or restrict something. So you can see how that word has evolved. So drawing a line around something to restrict it. Okay, so sometimes the literal meaning isn't the actual meaning. So we've got the prefix tele there, far or far off, and the example is telephone. So obviously we can use a telephone to contact people who are far away. And the far away, obviously, we all use the telephone daily. They might be in the next street, or even in the next room, but they're not right beside you, so you can contact them that way. So that's why we have that meaning, using that prefix tele, meaning far away. Hyper, which the meaning is over and above, and the example is hyperactive. So someone or something that is more is over the normal level of activity. And trans, meaning across or beyond, and the example there, transatlantic. So a transatlantic flight would be a flight across the Atlantic. So do we have any questions so far? Okay, so working backwards from the examples we've just looked at, or like the examples we've just looked at, we're going to look at some different words, and I want you to try and identify the root word and the prefix and tell me if you know what the meaning is. So for an example, we'll look at the first one together. Sorry. So biology is the root word in microbiology. And by adding micro, that's giving a new meaning. So microbiology now. And the meaning is the study of microorganisms. Okay. So monotone. What is the root word there? Does anyone want to have a go?
Is it tone?
Tone. And do you know what the word tone means? So tone means sound, and what's the prefix then? If tone is the root word, what's the prefix?
The mono.
Mono. And do you know the meaning of mono? So mono is like one. So monotone, the meaning is one tone. So it's a sound with an unchanging pitch. So it's just one continuous sound. So sometimes that's someone whose voice doesn't change very much when they're speaking. Or if you imagine a robot voice, it's a monotone voice. So it's just got one unchanging pitch. Okay, transnational. What's the root word and the prefix?
The root is national.
Good. So, and what's the prefix then?
Sorry.
And do you know what the meaning of transnational would be?
Is trans something to do with link? I don't know.
Yeah, so like a link between nations or across nations. So it could be something like, so it says they're across national boundaries. It could be something like a transnational agreement. So an agreement made across nations. So I think you mentioned the word link, like a link between the nations. Okay. Telegram. This one's a bit trickier. The root word and the prefix. Remember, prefix means it goes before the root word. So for all of these, we're looking at, the prefix is at the beginning of the word and the root word is the second part of the word. So telegram, what is the prefix?
Telly.
Good, telly, and we heard the meaning of that previously. Can anyone remember what the meaning of telly is? So the meaning is crossing a distance or going across a distance. So tel is the prefix. The root word is gram. So let's have a look. Does anyone know what telegram means or what it is?
Is it kind of same like email, but it's old fashioned?
Exactly. Yeah, it's not really something that we would use now, but it is something you might hear in a film or a book set in the past. So yes, so a message sent by telegraph, and a telegraph is sending a message along a wire, but like you say, it's something from the past. Okay, biannual. What's our prefix? Let's think of the prefix first, because that's the word. Bi, meaning
Two.
Good. Annual means
Yearly.
yearly. So biannual, twice a year.
Twice a year.
Circumvent. So what's our prefix?
Second.
Good. And do you know what that might mean? Circum?
To draw a line across.
Around.
It means around. Yeah, the previous word we looked at was about drawing a line around, but this the actual prefix circum is around. Okay. Vent. This is a trickier one because the way that we use the word vent in English isn't what this isn't the meaning in this word. So in this word, circumvent, which means to find a way around something, the root word vent actually comes from a Latin word. So the complication of English is that most of our words come from different languages. So the meaning can be different to what we expect. So this word is from a Latin word meaning come, vent. So circumvent is coming around something, finding a way around something. If we use the word vent in English, it might be, oh, I needed to vent about that difficult situation at work, you know, like letting off steam or opening a window to let steam out of a window and so on. So sometimes if you're not sure, it's better to look it up in a dictionary, which is really easy. You can do that on your phone rather than trying to just guess the word. So circumvent, finding a way around something. Okay, oh, I've already given you that one. So superimpose. So the prefix is super, which again in this meaning is from Latin over or above, and impose meaning put upon. So it's laying one thing on top of the other, the meaning of that word, superimpose. So it's quite often used in printing. When they are designing layouts, they might put a picture over some text or vice versa. So yes, superimpose. But we can see that prefix super, the Latin meaning over or above, that's why we would use it to describe something that's really great, super, over and above everything else. So once we start to learn the meaning of prefixes, suffixes and so on, we can see how they appear in other words and how that can help us with understanding as well as with spelling. So autopilot, what's the prefix?
Auto.
Auto. And can you remember what the meaning of that prefix is, auto?
Automatic.
So automatic
Self.
is another word using that prefix, but what does the auto part mean?
Authority.
Oh,
So the auto part, the meaning of auto is that it does it by itself.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Self or oneself. So in this, what's the root word?
Pilot.
Pilot. So an autopilot, what's an autopilot?
It does it by itself. Auto by itself.
So,
Drive our aeroplane.
so it's a device that
Yeah.
automatically
By itself.
steers a ship or an aircraft. So it does it by itself. So the pilot, he does the takeoff, the landing, but during the flight, he might switch on the autopilot, which directly steers the aircraft according to the route that's in the computer of the plane. And it's doing it by itself without human interaction. Or it could be, if we want to look at another example to aid our understanding, autobiography. So a biography is the book about somebody's life. Autobiography means you've written it yourself. So you have written a book about yourself. Autobiography. Whereas a biography is a book that someone else has written about you. Okay. So using suffixes now. So suffixes at the end of a word, and I'm going to share that with you. Just bear with me. So can you see the video on your screen?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that had shared. Okay, brilliant.
More tips for spelling, suffixes and plural words. In this unit, we will look at suffixes and plural words. Root words are words that stand alone and can have other parts added to them. The proper name for those bits that are fixed to the end of the root word is suffixes. Suffix useful tip 1. Never use LEY on the end of everyday words. LEY means a clearing in a wood and will only be used for place names such as Barnsley, Crawley, Otley and Chorley. This can help you if you get confused with where the letter E in words like sincerely or separately. Remember, you are adding LY to sincere and separate. Shun endings. Is it TION, SION or CIAN? Generally, if a word has a sh sound, as in action, then use TION. If a word has a sh sound, as in vision, then use SION. Job-related shun words are CIAN, for example, musician, electrician, beautician. Full only has one L. When used as a suffix, full will only have one L, as in cheerful, faithful, grateful. The second L is added if you add LY as well, so the word becomes cheerfully, faithfully, gratefully. Add in consonant suffixes. A consonant suffix is an ending which starts with the consonant. There's a clue in the name. Some very common examples are LY, FUL, NESS, MENT, LESS. These suffixes start with the consonants L in LY, F in full, N in S, M in ment, and L in less. When you add these to a root word, then don't change the root word. See here how we have done nothing to the root word care. Consonant suffixes just add to the root word. You don't need to do anything. Add in vowel suffixes. As is suggested in the name, a vowel suffix is one which starts with a vowel. The 5 vowels are A, E, I, O, and U. Some common examples are ing, ed, and er. When you add these to a root word, then something usually needs to happen. Let's go back to the root word care. Care plus ing equals caring. We have knocked off the E from the root word to add ing. We do the same with cared and carer, as we knock off the E to add ed or er. Sometimes things can get really tricky with vowel suffixes. Look at the word tap. What are you going to do when you want to add ing? Is it tapping or taping? Tapping and taping aren't the same thing at all. Taping would mean that we have knocked off the E to add ing from the root word tape. Tapping means we have added ing to tap and doubled the P. On short words with one final consonant, you should double that letter when adding the vowel suffix. Tapped, tapper, tapping, not taped, taper, taping. These mean something totally different. Plural words. Know how to make plurals. Plural means more than one, so the plural of cat is cats. The usual way to make a plural is to add s. On words that end ch, sh, double s, s, or x, then we add es, as in churches, washers, glasses, circuses, and boxes. On words that end with f or fe, change the ffe to a v and add es. Thief becomes thieves, life becomes lives. For words that end vowel plus y, then add s, as in boys, trays, monkeys. For words that end consonant plus y, knock off the y and add ies, as in cherry to cherries, jelly to jellies. So, to help your spelling, try out these different tips to work out how you are going to deal with those tricky words that you find difficult. And remember, practice makes perfect.
Okay, so there's a lot of information in there. We're going to work through some of that together now. So, as we've heard, suffixes are letters at the end of a word that change the meaning. So, the level 1 expectation is that you should know already how to spell words with these suffixes: al, ary, ship, ness, ible, able, shun, and shun. Okay. So at level 2, you need to be able to spell more complex words with suffixes accurately. And there's a list there of some of those that you're expected to spell accurately: ICAL, IOUS, CIAN, ANCE, and ENCE. Okay, so we've got a text here, and there are some words using suffixes. You need to find them and correct any errors. So I will read it out loud and you can follow on your screen. It's really important that you follow because we're looking at spelling, so you need to be looking at it to find any errors and maybe make a note or remember where they are. Clean communities can only happen when individuals make a conscious choice to do the right thing and put their rubbish in the bin or take it with them where there is no bin available. The appearance of our parks and public places plays a big part of what makes our region a wonderful place to live, and we all have an influence on them. So why not register for a clean-up in your local area? I urge you to become part of the solution by getting involved in making your community a better, cleaner, healthier place. Okay, so has anybody noted any errors in suffixes?
Conscious.
Good. So straight away on the first line, the word conscious. So that is spelt incorrectly. Can anybody tell me how it should be spelled?
Okay. C-O-N
Hold on.
S
That's it. C-O-N.
S-C I-O-U-S. If I'm right? Conscious.
Conscious. Good. Okay, so a conscious choice. Well done. Has anyone spotted any other errors? So there was only one in that first paragraph. So let's move to the second paragraph. Can you spot any errors?
Paragraph 2, influence.
Good. So influence, let me just underline it for everybody. Influence. So how should that be spelled?
I-N
Yeah,
F-L-U-E-N-C-E.
good. Well done, influence. There's another word in that first paragraph using a suffix. Can anybody spot it? And it has an error in it. So the
I
word,
want clean.
pardon?
I'm thinking of the word clean.
No, we're still looking at the second paragraph.
Okay.
So it's the word
Appearance.
appearance. So does anyone want to tell me how that should be spelled? So we've got the root word appear, but it's changed to appearance. So how should we add that suffix? So I'll type the beginning because that's our root word. So it's the ENC part that is incorrect.
A-N-C-E.
Good. A-N-C-E. Okay. Right, so let's have a look at the last paragraph. Any errors or anything that
No clue. I didn't say anything.
Is it just me or something wrong?
I think we lost the host.
Okay.
Yeah. We lost the host. I think she's back. Yeah.
Well, she's back, but there is no voice. I don't know why.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we
Yes,
can, yeah.
please.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened. I think there was an issue with my Zoom for some reason. It just suddenly switched itself off. Okay, but let's carry on. So we're looking at this final paragraph and which word is using a shun suffix. So the sound is shun. So if you read that to yourself, you can mute yourself and read it out loud if you want, which is the word using the shun suffix. So it is spelt correctly, but I just want you to
Solution.
identify. Good, solution. So it's that word there. Okay, so that one's actually spelt correctly. But that would be an easy one to get incorrect, but we can see there it's been spelled correctly. Good. Okay. Okay, so moving on, spelling words with unstressed vowels. So sometimes they're called silent letters because we can't hear them, but they are in the spelling. So they're tricky to spell because of that, because you can't hear some of the sounds when you say it out loud. So there's some examples here. Difference. If we said all of the sounds, it would be difference. But usually you will hear people say different. So we need to make sure when spelling that we don't forget that E in the middle. Business, we don't say that I in the middle. Business. In my head, when I'm spelling it, I still say busyness in my head that I learned when I was very young, just because that helps me to spell it. But when we say it in normal speech, we would just say business. Jewelry. The silent E is the third E. We don't say jewellery. Okay? Jewelry. Jewelry. Okay? So you just need to be careful that you are spelling correctly, even when you can't hear those sounds. There are lots of those types of words with unstressed vowels. And if you know that there are particular ones that you find tricky, then it's best to keep a note of those with the correct spelling and just practice them when you have a few minutes. So you could have a notebook or just use the notes function on your smartphone if you have one, or on a tablet, whatever's easiest for you. But just if you know you find it tricky, you know that you often make an error, just make a note of that word so you know you need to practice it. So often we find these tricky words end in ARY, ERY, ORY. So there's the element of getting confused with which suffix it is, or RENCE. Again, it's easy to make the error of putting RA in. And also with EN or ER patterns. Okay, so these words all have an unstressed sound. So can you identify which sound we don't hear when we say the word out loud? So if you know what that silent letter is, or the unstressed sound, then because you know it's there, you're not going to make an error when you're spelling it. So I'll say them out loud, and I want somebody to tell me what the unstressed sound is. Abandoned.
The O.
Pardon?
The O after the D didn't sound.
So we do say that sound, abandoned. So that O is there. It makes an sound, but it is there. So let me show you for this one. It's the E. So we don't say abandon ed. Do we? Abandon ed. We just say abandoned. So it's as if the N and the D are one after the other, but no, there's an E in there. Abandoned. Okay. Miserable. Miserable.
The I.
It's the E, not the E in the middle. So we don't say miserable. Say miserable. So you need to make sure you remember that E in the middle. Okay, difference. Difference. Different.
The second E.
The difference. It's the first E.
The first E. Okay.
Okay, so difference. We don't normally hear that. We usually hear difference. So just be aware. Factory.
Oh.
The O.
Good. General.
The E. The second E.
Second E. Good. General. So, I'll speak to you about that at the end. General. Good. General. Deafening.
E. After F.
D. Good. Again, this is one that I'm going to highlight at the end, but yes, the second E. So we're on number 7 now. Abominable.
A.
Abominable. Listen carefully. Abominable.
I.
I.
Abominable. We just say abominable. Dictionary. Dictionary.
A.
Good. The A at the end. Voluntary. Voluntary.
O. O.
Vol.
The A.
Good. The A. Voluntary. We're missing out that A sound. Frightening. Frightening.
The
E.
E.
The E. Good. Desperate.
E.
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 Good. Middle E. Widening. Widening.
E.
The E again.
Yeah.
Now, having gone through those words, some of them, because in English there are in England there are so many different accents, and also English speaking countries have their own accents. Some of these words will depend on accents and the accent that you yourself have when speaking English. So for some of them, such as widening, in my accent, I would say widening. So some of it will not be tricky to you, because when you say the word, you will stress all of the sounds. Okay. Deafening, I would also say that middle E. So some of them, just to be aware, it may be different depending on the accent of the person who is speaking. So don't worry too much about how you say the word out loud. All the point of this is just to make you aware that some words in English will have unstressed sounds, and you need to make sure that you don't forget those when you are spelling. Okay, so as it said on the previous slide, as I've reminded you, with spelling, the best strategy, using all of the tips and rules, but the best thing to get it right is have a list of those words that you find tricky, and when you get a few minutes, practice them. And the ones that people find tricky, it'll be different for everybody. So just keep a list and practice and practice. When you've mastered one, you can knock it off the list then. But that's the best way to remember how to spell correctly. Okay. So for this slide, because it's quite complex, so if you have handy a phone or another device that you can take a picture, it might be worth just taking a quick picture so you can study it afterwards. And these are some other spelling issues that you might come across, or you will come across. Silent letters, so not just letters that may or may not be stressed in different accents, but they're never stressed. They are always silent. So the silent B. So examples: crumb, lamb, also comb. There is a B at the end, but we never hear it. So that, again, they're ones that you just need to remember. Words such as resign, rain, have that silent G. Okay, so these are what you might hear spelling patterns that you just need to learn. So there's that MB for crumb and lamb is a word ending that you need to learn that spelling and which words it is used in. Okay, because you'll never be able to use the sounds out loud of the word to help you with that spelling. You'll just need to learn it. The silent H, so our, honest. Some examples there. N in autumn and condemn. And we've got the silent P at the start, so psychology, pneumonia. The silent silent S, so examples: island, debris. A U, guide, guitar, and W, answer, sword. So they're just examples. There will be other words that you have those silent letters. Okay, so EI or IE. Now, there used to be a rhyme, which I'm not going to tell you because it's not correct. There used to be a rhyme they used to teach children in primary schools about I and E and I, E and I. And there are so many exceptions to that rule that it's no longer taught. So as it says here, there is no reliable rule. So you just need to learn how to spell them. Okay, so again, English is tricky because there are so many words. We try and make rules to help us with spelling, but there are often so many exceptions to the rule. We just have to learn them. So examples here, deceit, siege, so it's the same sound but a different spelling. Those homophones that we talked about at the beginning. Conceive, relieve, again, they sound the same. The E sound is the same in both words, but it is spelled differently. Okay. And the GH. So it can be silent, such as in the word high, but also it's sometimes pronounced FF. So such as the word rough, tough, and other examples there of the F sound: cough, tough, laugh. Again, it's just, we just need to learn them. That's why I said, even though these are just examples, it's worth just having a record of these, just so you can look into them and make sure that you know which words have these spellings. So the silent GH, thigh, although, though, also uses it, of course. So any questions about that? It is tricky. As I've said, it's just practice. Reading is just as important, because the more you see it, the more you see different words and their spellings, then the more they will stick with you, as well as practicing writing them and spelling them correctly yourself. So reading as much as you can, and as I said, my advice to you would be to any words that you know that you get correct, or that you know you really have to think about when you come to spell them, that you're never quite sure, keep a list, keep practicing those when you've got a few minutes. Just, you know, you might be just on the bus or whatever, you can read over them, you can practice typing them. You're at home, you're waiting for your cup of tea to brew, just grab a notebook, just quickly, just write the word over and over again, just try and get it fixed in your mind. Okay, so again, if you want to take a picture of this, these are 24 commonly misspelled words. So if you can get these correct, then that is going to be a big advantage to you in your level 2, because these are commonly misspelled. If you can get them right, then that's showing your understanding of spelling and your mastery of it when you are writing. So I'll just give you a minute to look at those. I don't need to read them all out, unless there's any that people aren't sure of that they want me to read out. But I think the best thing is just for you to read those, take a picture of that so that you can practice those words if you're not sure of them yet. But it's probably best for you just to read them and those hints of how to remember the spelling. I'll just give you a minute to do that. Okay, does anyone have any questions about any of those words?
No.
No, it is tricky in English because there's so, as I said, there's so many exceptions to the rules that you know, I obviously did English when I was at school. I also have an A level in English, you know, I've got a degree, but there are still many words that I would need to look up because I wasn't sure, or I need to use little mnemonics to myself to remember the spelling. Okay, like I said before, that busyness one. So if I was writing the word business, I'm always reminding myself while I'm writing it that I still need to remember that middle I. Everybody will, however good at English you are, there'll always be the odd word that you find tricky. Another one for me that I always find tricky, and it's on that list there, receipt, which way the I and the E go. Okay, so again, it's sometimes a case of does it look right? So that's why I say about reading. The more you read, the more you're familiar with the correct spellings from looking at them and reading them yourself, it all helps. So as I say, don't worry about having problem words that you find tricky. I still have those, but it's just being aware of that, so that have a little mnemonic to help you remember it, to picture it, and yeah, just keep practicing. That's the main advice that I can give you. Okay.
Can I ask a question, please?
Of course.
Okay, the last word.
Yep.
12. Is it singular when you're writing or plural? Because is it 12s? 12.
So 12th is what we call ordinal. So it's, that's getting into maths, but it's basically the order of things. So if you were doing a race and there were 12 people and you came last, you would be the 12th person.
Okay.
If you are 12 today, it's your birthday. It is your 12th birthday. It's like first, second, but it's the 12th place. So 12th. Does that make
So
sense?
yeah.
Okay. It's quite a tricky one to say. It doesn't sound very natural when you say it 12th. Okay, because the F and the TH don't roll off the tongue very easily, but yeah. So there's a famous Shakespeare play, Twelfth Night. So that's about night. I don't know that play myself very well, but you know, that title refers to the night number 12. 12, sorry. The 12th night. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go on to our quiz. So hyperactive, which is the correct spelling. So think about the prefix at the front of the word and the root word, hyperactive.
D.
D, good.
D.
So infrastructure. So infrastructure, which one is it? Pardon?
A.
A, good. Oops. Which is the correct spelling? Untypical. Untypical.
D.
D.
Good.
B. B.
D. It's D.
D. Is D.
So the ending AL. So for the person that said B, I'm really glad that you said that, because this is a time when I can say, write that one down or make a note of it in your phone, because that's one that maybe you need to practice. For every single person, there will definitely be words that you need to practice. So that might be, other people might be looking at this and think, oh, I thought it was B as well. That's your first one in your list that you're going to make, so that you can practice the ones that you find tricky. Which is the correct spelling of abominable? Remember, there's that silent letter in it. Abominable.
D.
D. Good. Okay, so we finished our session for today. So we've got an awareness of prefixes and suffixes. Start making that list of words you need to practice. Just write them. Just keep writing them over and over again until you get them fixed in your head. If you need to, think of a little a visual that you can use to help you remember it, if that helps. However, the best way for you is to learn. That you should be able to rewatch the videos if that's helpful on Moodle. If you have a problem logging in, you can check with the office. They might be able to they will be able to reset it for you so you can access it. And there's also some practice activities on there, so I would recommend that you go and do those at some point during the week. Have a go at those practice activities. Okay. So any questions before we finish? Okay, well,
No.
have a good week, everybody, and
Thank you.
remember next week. I'm on leave next week, so there'll be no reading or writing sessions. We'll be back the following week.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Take care. Have a good day.
Good day. Yeah.
Bye.
Right.